Okay, so what's with the crazy title? Do I really think the Mavericks would win the finals? Yes, I do actually think so. Let me explain. So, first I'll predict the play-in games, and then the first round, and then the second round, and then the conference finals, and then the finals. So, for the West, I think Lakers would beat the Pelicans for the 7th seed. And then the Pelicans would beat either the Warriors or the Kings, whoever wins that game. So with that, Lakers would be the 7th seed and then Pelicans would be the 8th seed. Then for the East, it would remain the same. 7th seed, 76ers, 8th seed, Miami Heat. And then for the first round, the Thunder versus the Pelicans. There are just a few concerns for the Thunder here. The Thunder is a bit inexperienced, while the Pelicans have some experience under their belt. And when Brandon Ingram actually returns to full form, they can be actually tough to beat. But regardless, I'm going with the Thunder here with Shea and then Jay Williams, Chet being there, even Josh Giddey. So I think it would be Thunder in 7. The Pelicans would push them that far and they would just eliminate them by just a brink. Since I doubt Chet Holmgren would be able to hold Zion Williamson unless the entire team would just adjust their defense on him and then Brandon Ingram would just be defended by one defender. So I think it would still be the Thunder. So the Nets would be the Clippers versus the Mavericks. So as the title says, the Mavs would win this series. With I think it would be 5 to 6 games. Yeah, I'm going with Mavs in 6 for this one. Kawhi, PG, Harden, Westbrook. They may not be that much of a playoff performer. No, except Kawhi. Kawhi is actually a playoff performer. But Paul George have been known to choke in OKC and then now in recent Clippers. Although PG has been good in the playoffs the past in 2022. The last year he was injured, so count that out. Kawhi was injured, and Kawhi is injured right now, so we can't really trust him right now. So yeah, Mavs in 6. And then Timberwolves versus Suns. The Suns had a number of the Timberwolves for most of the season, and I believe that would carry on into the first round of the playoffs. And with that, the Suns would probably win in 6 or 7. Despite the Timberwolves being one of the best defenses this year, Rudy Gobert has always not performed in the playoffs, or rather his minutes have always been restricted in the playoffs since he can be unplayable at times. So don't get me wrong that I'm saying that he is bad defensively in the perimeter, but he just can be targeted and there are better options in the Timberwolves, such as I think it would be Jaden McDaniels and then Naz Reid, if I'm not mistaken, with Towns being the center. If they can't rebound, well, they can probably just sub back in Rudy Gobert. But still, with that, the firepower of the Suns would probably be too much for the Timberwolves, and the Suns would win in 6 or 7. And now we get to the exciting part, the Nuggets versus the Lakers. And I am a Lakers fan, I am a LeBron fan, and the Nuggets have actually struggled the past few games, with their second to the last game being with the Spurs and then choking a 23-point lead, losing to Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs in the process. But the Lakers have been hot recently, them beating the Pelicans, and then I think they are 8-2 in the last 10 games of the regular season. So they are hot right now. With that being said, it would be Nuggets in 6. Yes, the Nuggets just have the number of the Lakers. For some reason, Anthony Davis, AD, cannot defend or at least cannot beat skilled bigs. He hasn't won a game against Sabonis for, I think that was 19 games straight, I'm not sure, or 9 games straight. Either that or 9 or 19. And then Jokic, I don't think he can. I don't think he can really beat Jokic. So it would be up to LeBron. But LeBron is 39 years old and D'Lo is unreliable on the playoffs. And we still don't know if Dinwiddie, Reeves, and the others would show up. While we can most certainly say that Jamal Murray Aaron Gordon, and then Michael Porter Jr. would have decent games in the series. Each of them at least taking one game, being good or great in one game. So that would be good enough for 4 wins. The Nuggets would be the victorious one in this series. Now, for the East, it would be the Celtics versus the Heat. And with that, despite the Miami Heat's run last year and the Boston Celtics' tendency to underperform in the playoffs, I do believe that the Celtics would beat them this time. It would probably either be a sweep or Game 7, since the Miami Heat is just tenacious. Just like what happened in 2021 series of Bucks, where the Game 1 actually reached overtime, but the games 2, 3, and 4 was just blowouts. So I believe when Miami Heat wins game 1 of the series, it would go up to 7. But when Celtics win the first game, it would be a sweep. But regardless, Celtics would win the series. Now, for the Cavs and the Magic, I think the Magic are just a little bit under experience, and Paolo Banchero, Markel Fultz, Jalen Suggs, a lot of them are just new to the playoffs, and so I believe the Cavs would win this one. Probably in 6 games. Since the Cavs also are shaky right now, and Mitchell and Darius Garland can't just coexist on the court. And then for the Bucks and Pacers, this hurts to say. I am a Bucks fan, and I do hope they would win this series. So my brain tells me that Pacers would actually demolish them. Perhaps Pacers in 5 games, but my heart says Bucks in 6. So for the sake of this argument, Bucks would win in 6. And then the Nets would be the Knicks versus the Sixers. So the Sixers are not your ordinary 7th seed. Embiid has been injured most of the series and most of the season, and he just came back recently, performing monstrously, having more total points than minutes. So Embiid's having a crazy season, and Maxey is just, I'm not sure if he's an all-star, but if he's not an all-star, he is at least a borderline all-star, with a great supporting cast this time and having a great coach in Nick Nurse. And then the Nets are red hot right now with 5-game win streak, I believe. And then Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby, and the rest of the supporting cast are just great at doing their roles right now. And Tom Thibodeau, he's actually using their pieces well, but the problem is he overworks them a lot. So the risk would be injuries in the playoffs. But I would think the Nets would win in this series. The Nets are one of the best defenses in the NBA right now, and Embiid has been an underperformer in the playoffs and has been injured most of the season. Perhaps he would not be at 100% when going into the playoffs, and that's why I believe the Nets would win in 5 to 6 games. Because if it reaches 7 games, I believe Sixers would win. The Nets would be very drastic with Thibodeau's minutes, and then Embiid would be slowly getting back to his groove. So the Nets would have to beat the Sixers within 5 or 6 games for them to advance. But with that, I do believe the Nets would win the series in 5 or 6. So with that, let's proceed on to the second round. It would be the Thunder versus the Mavericks. So the Thunder is unexperienced and the Mavs has been very experienced in the playoffs actually, with Kyrie being a champion and Luka has gone to the conference finals. Meanwhile, the Thunder are mostly young bloods they're actually the youngest team to ever secure the first seed. And that's why I believe the Mavs would win this series in probably 6 games. Then the next would be the Suns versus the Nuggets. And as mentioned during my prediction in the first round, the Nuggets have been shaky in the past few games, while the Suns actually have caught fire. When I was rooting for the Lakers back in March or late February, I saw the schedule of the Suns and I was like, this is tough. I think the Suns would slide to the 9th or 10th seed. But it didn't happen. They actually beat the teams that they were not supposed to beat. They beat teams that are higher seeding than them. And they were quite red hot coming into the playoffs. And they even beat the Nuggets, I believe, in one game. So with that, I do believe the Suns could pull out a miracle and win in a 7-game series versus the Nuggets. Jokic would be Jokic, and then Murray would be Murray, but Booker would be the same red-hot Booker we have known him to be in the playoffs. KD would get the occasional 20-30 points. Beal would do the same. Grayson would be the X factor, and Nurkic would be cooked by Jokic. But the offensive power of the Suns can just really pull out miracles, and I believe they would pull this miracle one out. And so the Suns would advance in 7 games. Now for the Celtics versus the Cavaliers, no question, Celtics would sweep the Cavaliers. Yeah, let's just not talk about that. So the Nets would be the Bucks versus the Knicks. So being a Bucks fan, I would say that the Knicks would win in probably 6 games. Yeah, unless Giannis actually comes back. But that would be too dangerous for the Bucks, since if Giannis comes back and it turns out to be an Achilles injury, much like KD back in 2019, they aren't coming back from that. Giannis would return at 32, 33 years old and visibly less athletic than he is now. So the Bucks cannot just risk the next 2 years for a shaky season. And that's why I believe the Knicks would win in 6 games. And even if the Pacers win the series, the outcome would be the same. And so the conference finals are set. The Mavericks versus the Suns and the Celtics versus the Knicks. So let's again start with the Western Conference. The Mavs versus the Suns. As history have shown, I'm going with Mavs in 6, with the Mavericks blowing the Suns out on the Mavericks home floor in Game 6. Oh no, that's actually in the home court of the Suns. So yes, the Mavs would blow out the Suns in their home court, much like the previous series these two have battled. Luka and the Mavs just have the Suns number, and so Mavs in 6, Mavs to the finals. And then for the East, as I mentioned previously, I am a Lakers and Bucks fan. And so that would make me a Celtics hater. So I really dislike the Celtics. I am not a fan of the Celtics, and I am not a fan of Jason Tatum being an MVP candidate, since he is known to disappear every once in a while. Even in the regular season, you would see that he has 28 points on the first half, and then just 3 points on the second half. And then their opponent win by a comeback for over 30 points, much like what Atlanta did. So yeah, I don't believe in the Celtics. They just have an easier road to the conference finals, but I'm going with the Knicks in 7 games. I have to put some respect to the Celtics since they really have a stacked first 5. Drew, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Derek White, Porzingis, and sometimes Al Horford, and then some of their bench. And I just believe in the Knicks. Jalen Brunson has been a really good playoff performer the past few years. OG Anunoby, a really good perimeter defender, wing defender, and then a really good supporting cast. And their recent games against each other, the Knicks actually won by a blowout. And Tom Thibodeau is just a much better and experienced coach than Joe Mazzulla. And with that, the Knicks would win in 7 games. And so for the first time in 30 years, the Knicks would advance to the finals. So now, the Knicks versus the Mavericks. And as the title would say, I'm predicting the Mavericks would win in 6 games. Why? The Knicks have one of the best defenses in the league right now. Well, also the Mavericks. The Mavericks have been one of the better defenses since March, and they are continuing it. They are red hot right now, offensively and defensively. And if they actually really pull off going out of the West, I'll be assuming they are still red hot coming into the finals. And while the Knicks would be red hot coming off beating the Celtics, I believe the Mavericks just have the more personnel and firepower to win the series. The Knicks would miss Julius Randle for the rest of the season, so there's no chance of him coming back. And the Dallas Mavericks is a team that when they catch fire, they really do catch fire. Every player on the team would just throw a lot of threes and they would go in. And then Luka would just laugh at you at the bench. And so, yeah, Mavericks would win the finals. Luka being the finals MVP. And then another prediction will be Luka winning the MVP next year. if Luka actually pulls off this miracle run and achieves the finals MVP. And so with that, my prediction for the NBA 2024 finals, the Mavericks would be your 2024 champion. And with that, that's it for this video.